All right, welcome to our COVID-19 return to practice or conditioning training meeting. We're really excited that we're able to get this started for you and our athletes. Again, this is completely voluntary, but we're excited to be able to bring this back. We've been working a long time towards this. Thank you for your patience. We've been having discussions for a long time with athletic directors, athletic trainers, the principals, and district. And then we also have to work closely with our district, our county, and our Department of Public Health in order to follow all of their protocols and procedures as well and what they're allowing to happen in Los Angeles County. These are some of the essentials. One, first and foremost, this is voluntary for everybody. This can't impact their 6th period grade, their playing time, or status because it is voluntary for you, the families, for the coaches, for anyone that wants to participate. We just want to give them this opportunity, but we completely understand if you do not want your students to participate at this time. So again, it's voluntary. The goals of coming back are connection with coaches and students, physical acclimation, and then injury prevention. It's just that conditioning piece of it. Communication, next steps, and questions. The head coach and the athletic director are who you're going to completely communicate with, and that communication needs to be clear, and we're emphasizing that as well. Big part, failure to follow these protocols and guidelines will result in the immediate termination of all physical activity for individuals and possibly the entire team. So the big thing here is we just want to make sure that we're following all these protocols so that we can continue this. If things aren't followed, we have to take this back away, and that's something that LA County is really big on. Here's the timeline. So hopefully November 9th is our tentative date still, but hopefully we'll be able to start next Monday. Sports will allowed to return with their cleared coaches. So we only have a couple coaches cleared right now. There is another board meeting next week, so hopefully we can get more coaches cleared. Cohorts are no more than 13 students. 13 students to one coach is what we have. December 14th is the first week of the fall CIF sports calendar, and it's all pending LA County public health and state guidelines as well. Late February through March will be the spring CIF sports calendars. LA County guidelines and reminders. So we need to make sure that students have 6 feet between them, or the players and athletes have 6 feet between them. And if they're having a overly heavy physical exertion, they're going to be 8 feet apart. Again, those are 13 to 1 cohorts. Players must wear a mask and can only take it off if they're swimming, eating, drinking, or if they're having heavy physical exertion. The locker room will not be available, so students should show up to practice in their proper gear. They will not be able to go back to the locker room. All activities must take place outdoors. There is a limited sharing of equipment between designated pairs. So basically 2 students can share a ball or some kind of equipment, but that's it. It can't go with more students than that, and it will be cleaned in between uses of pairs. All players and coaches must fill out a COVID symptom screening form before arriving on campus, which will be a survey that is emailed to students. We'll talk more about that a little later.
All right, so I'm going to go over the athletic clearance portion of this. The clearance part of it is the same as it has been for a few years now as far as getting cleared, but obviously with this whole process, there's a few extra steps aside from just the basic clearance. So I'm going to go through the actual clearance protocol and then any additional steps that you'll need to take that are out of the norm. As far as clearance goes, okay, all the information is available as far as a step-by-step guideline for you on the athletics website. That is losaltosathletics.org. If you hover your mouse over the More tab, you'll be able to click on the athletic clearance instructions under the clearance section. Okay, everything is there for you. There's a video. There is step-by-step instructions of how to do this process. But basically, the process is very simple. You're going to go to the website athleticclearance.com. You're going to click Create Clearance for 2020-2021. Please make sure that you choose Los Altos High School that has Hacienda Heights in parentheses. There are 2 Los Altos High Schools in California. There's one up north near San Francisco, and then there is ours. Both are listed there, so the common issue is that people choose the first one, which is, it just says Los Altos High School. That is the actual Los Altos up north. Our high school says Hacienda Heights next to it, so make sure you choose the Hacienda Heights Los Altos. That is a common issue that people run into. Once you have begun the clearance process, you're going to, online, you're going to complete all the sections, including the signature page, which is at the end. Again, that is also a common issue that people have. They think they completed the first part, they're done. That is not complete yet. You need to complete the signature page, which is the last piece of information that you need to complete. Throughout this process, you need to upload your physical and your proof of insurance, which could either be a copy of your insurance card, a picture of your insurance card, but both need to be uploaded. Previously, students would be able to drop this off at school or drop this off in my office. That is not an option this year. So everything must be uploaded. So there are links there. You just, very simple, click the upload button for the physical, upload for insurance. You can upload both of those documents. Okay. And the big change that we've been having some discussions about, that all physicals must be completed by an MD or a DO. Okay, that is listed very clearly on the district athletic clearance form, and that is kind of a big shift this year that has been a bit of a change for people. So all physicals must be completed by an MD or a DO. They can also be completed by a nurse practitioner as long as the stamp of the doctor they're working with or under is on the form there. So that is kind of step one, right? Get yourself cleared or get your student cleared, okay, the normal clearance process, right? And then as far as our protocols for the check-in of athletes every single day when they come to campus, right? There's kind of a basic 3-step process. Step one is that all coaches and student athletes must fill out the COVID entry screening form. Okay, this is an LA County guideline. This is part of the protocol. This is the norm. It is a bit tedious that they'll have to do this every single day that they come on campus. So if they're practicing 5 days a week, this form will need to be completed every single day. We will have a system in which we'll be able to check that if it was completed on the date on which it was completed. So this is a must, that it must be completed every single day before arriving to campus, okay, whenever they have practice. Part two, once that is completed, the student athlete will arrive. They're gonna line up in their specific sports station to check in. All right, as you can see on the map here, and I'll go over it a little bit more in detail later, but the check-in location will be the area between the stadium and the pool, okay, at the bottom part of the parking lot between the stadium and the pool. We have very specific check-in stations. There will be LAs painted as markers for students to stand on the ground there, 6 feet apart, so we're social distancing throughout this check-in process. Once students have been checked in, making sure that they're supposed to be here on campus, making sure that they've completed the screening form, they will then be allowed to move on to whatever part of campus that they are going to be using, whether it's the stadium or the pool or the blacktop areas or the fields for their practice or their workout. And part three of the check-in process is our admin, our athletic director or trainer will be there to confirm that the student has filled out the screening form. We'll be doing temperature checks. And then once that is completed and everything is good to go, the students will be allowed to move on to their practice. As far as the screening form and what that looks like or what it entails, it's a very, very simple form. Okay, everybody, like I said, must have it filled out. Every coach, every student athlete, basically anybody that's going to be on campus for that day for athletics must have this completed before they arrive on campus. If the answer is yes to any of those questions, they should not be arriving on campus, which means that they have either been in contact with someone with COVID or they have some symptoms of COVID. They should not be coming to campus, okay? The simple questions that the form asks, it's got some very basic information on there: name, grade, the sport that they're playing. It has a list of symptoms that that could be possibly signs for COVID, and if they've had any close contact with anyone that has recently been infected with COVID in the last 10 to 14 days. Okay, so again, if any of those answers are yes to those questions, they should not be coming to campus that day. And then the last thing here is that coaches will communicate times of check-in. Okay, that is information that should be coming from your head coach. As far as when your check-in time is, it's not, we're gonna have to stagger times and we're gonna have different times for people coming. So that is information that should be coming directly from your head coach. And again, the form that you're gonna be getting will be sent out via email. And then if possible, there will be a link posted on the athletics website. I'm making a COVID return to play page specifically for information regarding return to play and returning to activities here. As far as check-in goes, as you can see, the map here of the school, okay, we're having designated check-in and designated pickup locations. The check-in station, as I mentioned, will be located at the north end of the main parking lot. Okay, so the main parking lot check-in location is going to be between the stadium and between the pool area. Okay, so at the bottom half of the parking lot, or the bottom portion of the parking lot, basically where normally you would exit to Turnbull Canyon, that is going to be our check-in area. As I said before, that an administrator or the athletic director will be there to check students in. Students will be required to stand in their locations, 6 feet of distance while the check-in is processing, and then they can move on to the next part of their day, which is their practice. We will have staggered starts for checking in of athletes. We can't have everybody showing up at the same time. We can't have multiple groups all showing up at the same time. So we're going to have a schedule put together to ensure that everybody is starting at various times, so that we're able to do this safely and without having large groups gathering on campus all at one time. Only participating students should be out of their car, and there should not be any loitering on campus. Okay, this is it is a closed practice situation. No family or friends are allowed to be at practices. The only people that are really allowed to be here on campus are the students, the coaches, and any administrators, and anybody dropping off and picking up. That is pretty much it. As you can see on the map, depending on where your student is actually working out, so if they're working out in the stadium, you have a designated pickup area, which is basically the main entrance of the stadium. Okay, and then you have also another designated pickup area, which is basically between the pool and the boys' locker room area, the rounded part of the parking lot there. So, very usual. The flow of traffic is very much normal to our daily traffic flow. We're just having a check-in area and then very designated pickup areas. Again, there should be no loitering on campus, either before or after practices conclude. We're really trying to keep this, with the guidelines and protocols of social distancing and making sure we don't have large gatherings of students or people in general. Again, reminders here, okay. Parents and guardians must stay in their car. That goes for pickup and drop off, okay. When you're dropping off, you should literally just be doing that. You are dropping off your student. They should be coming to check in. Again, it's going to be very important that, timing is going to be very, very important here. So making sure that you have the proper time from your coach that you're supposed to be here, the proper time when you're supposed to be picked up. We've communicated to our coaches that they need to stay on that time. If they say they're going to be done at 5 o'clock, they need to be done at 5 o'clock, so we can make sure that students are picked up at appropriate times, and the same thing with starting. Sessions are going to be closed to the public, no media, no guests, no families. Only the essential people that need to be on campus will be on campus. As I mentioned before, make sure that your student is picked up promptly. Okay, so again, we're going to hold our coaches accountable as far as sticking to those times. If they say they're going to be done at a certain time, they need to be done. But in that same respect, we also need students to be picked up at a certain time. So if they're being dropped off, they need to be picked up in those designated time frames. And again, the last reminder here is make sure that your child showers and changes clothes when they get home. Okay, it's very, very important. Although we are socially distanced, there are going to be others around the areas. So, we need to make sure that we're taking all precautions and following all protocols and guidelines. And that includes, sanitation and cleanliness. So make sure that, you're changing clothes, make sure that your child is showering, washing hands, sanitizing, and also, making sure that they don't use the same clothes repeatedly day after day. Preferably changing clothes, whatever they wore yesterday, they should not be wearing the next day.
So exposure and illness guidelines. Symptoms for COVID will appear 2 to 14 days after a person has been exposed to the virus. This is stuff we already have learned about the COVID-19. If any of these symptoms are present, the student should not attend school and not participate in either athletic practices, contests, until they're cleared to do so. So the student must stay home, avoid any exposure to the public, and follow instructions from their primary medical provider. even if an individual or a student is not experiencing symptoms, it's possible to spread the virus. So we need to be very clear that we're taking care of this, and any symptoms, we're asking you not to have the student here, and we will send the student home immediately at that point too, if they do show up with that. Exposure before, make sure you're notifying the coach and the athletic trainer if they're available. They're not allowed to come to campus. Students are not allowed to come to campus. They need to self-quarantine for 14 days. If the symptoms appear within the 14-day period, it is recommended to get the test, the COVID test. If symptoms are showing up during practice, notify the coach and athletic trainer immediately again. They'll be sent home immediately, self-quarantine for 14 days, and same thing. See their medical provider for a COVID test. If there is a positive COVID test, notify the coach and athletic trainer immediately. Follow your physician's guidelines, 14-day quarantine, and they need to be cleared by a physician at that point.
All right, so I'm going to quickly go over the cohort model, kind of the way that our program is set up here to make sure that we're following all the guidelines. Okay, the first thing is that kind of a student-parent checklist. Kind of the essentials here before we get started. Make sure that you review the return to practice presentation that we're going through here and any guidelines that we send out. It's very important that everything is understood before we actually get started. All clearance requirements are met through athleticlearance.com. Again, the physical, the copy of the insurance card is uploaded. You will get an email that specifically says that you are cleared if you are cleared, okay? Just because you did the athletic clearance or you think you completed everything on athleticlearance.com doesn't automatically mean that someone is cleared. There is a confirmation email that specifically says that you are cleared for whatever sport it is that you signed up for. So you need to wait for that clearance email. Okay. Again, clearance is not complete until all documents have been reviewed. Okay. And again, everything needs to be reviewed, making sure that everything, the physical is up to date. It's done properly by a medical provider. And then the insurance card is uploaded accurately. Okay. As far as the students need to get information on what pod they're in from their coach. Okay. This either has been or will be communicated to you by your head coach. Some things may have changed in the past couple of weeks or so. So you should be getting that information. And the requirement that we're asking our coaches is that the pods or the cohorts do not change for at least 2 weeks. Okay, that is kind of the general guideline that whatever cohort you are put in, you are there for at least 2 weeks. And really the movement is going to be very, very limited as far as, moving groups and things like that. So coaches have been instructed to kind of try to put these pods and cohorts together, with understanding that there's going to be limited movement between the groups. Okay, and again, that's just so that we don't have exposure of multiple people to different groups. Right? We're trying to limit the amount of exposure as much as possible. And as far as your schedule goes, again, that communication should be coming in from your head coach as far as what time practice is, what time you're expected to be there to check in. Obviously, as far as, what the exit time is, right? Again, as I mentioned before, we're trying to hold coaches accountable as far as start times and end times to make sure that we don't have large groups of people gathering on campus, and also to limit traffic as far as pickup and drop off. As far as the expectations, Mr. Hess mentioned earlier, right, that's following protocol is going to be a huge thing, and not following protocol is something that could either get the individual or the team in general or the whole program, shut down. So it's very, very important that we follow these guidelines and follow the expectations. Number one, proper hydration. Okay, it is the athlete's responsibility. There should be no sharing of water bottles. It is the expectation that every student has their own water bottle, preferably a 64-ounce water bottle if that's possible. But they need to, they will not have access to water fountains on campus, so they need to bring their own, and there should be no sharing of the bottles between people, and especially between cohorts. The expectation is that a student has their water bottle and they have their name on it. At the very least, their last name on it, either written on the bottle or written on a piece of tape on the bottle. That way it's very clear whose is whose, and we don't have any mixing or sharing, okay? As far as cleanliness goes, hand sanitizer, hand washing, and workout clothes should be washed daily. We will have hand sanitizer at the check-in locations. so that students can use that when they get here. Again, making sure that proper hygiene is taken once they leave campus, and so that we're not, we're making sure that cleanliness is top priority during this time period. Socially distance at all times. That means in the parking lot, at the check-in, during practice, and exiting facility. Anytime they are here on campus, the expectation is socially distanced of a minimum of 6 feet and sometimes of 8 feet. That is kind of the big deal as far as conducting these workouts. Face coverings, as Mr. Hess mentioned, they are required when not involved in activity or drinking and eating. All right, that is going to be a very big deal here. The one guideline that I have seen also is that the N95s, while the N95 mask is fantastic for use on a daily basis, it is not great for athletic use. So we're asking for preferably face cloth coverings on the face, cover both the nose and the mouth. But the N95, because it does restrict airflow, it is not necessarily good for athletic activity. Okay. And then the last thing is the documentation. Again, that the daily health screening is completed before they come to campus. And again, if they should not be coming to campus if they're answering yes to any of those questions, or if they're not feeling well. Really, it's really going to be up to the individual to really self-police that. If they're not feeling well, they're not feeling right, they know that something's off. We're really going to ask that they kind of take it upon themselves to quarantine themselves for at least that day.
So before we go on to this next step, Mr. Ferrone, I just wanted to add, it's actually in here, which is perfect. So restrooms availability, they're only going to be available in emergency situations. Students must leave practice after the use. So we're asking all of our student athletes to use the restrooms before they come to practice. That's really important because we need to make sure that we're only using those facilities in emergency situations, because they do have to be sanitized after each use, and the coach is going to be responsible for that. So we are emphasizing, please have them use the restroom before they come to campus so that we don't have to exit them from practice. That's a big thing. Cleaning equipment, sanitizing spray, paper towels, sanitizing wipes will be available for the equipment that is in between uses. We must wipe down all the equipment when it's done being used after each use and before the next cohort uses them. Equipment will be sanitized each day or morning before the next practice. So we have purchased giant trash cans that are colored blue and red, and those trash cans will have that equipment in it. And then we will transfer it back to a location where a custodian will also sanitize it every morning so it's ready for the next day of use. This is only outdoor training, so it's only in fields, blacktop areas. It will not be in any indoor facilities, so it won't be inside the weight room, won't be inside the gym. It's only for outdoor facilities at this time. Communication. So again, we're going to have you work closely with your head coach. They're going to get out the training times. They're going to give you any announcements or updates. They'll let you know everything that's going on. We're going to have your child communicate with their coach as much as possible. And I think that's one of the things we just need to improve anyway, is our communication between coaches, parents, students. I think that's a big part of what we haven't had for a while, and we need to make sure that we're emphasizing that. So have your child communicate with their coach if they can't make a training session, they're possibly showing any symptoms, and if they're cleared and ready to come back.